You're watching Drake Wing Gaming. Enjoy the video.
Hey guys and gals, Never here from Drake Wing Gaming, and 70 Mounts Word of the Gaming Drag. Today I'm coming back at you another Let's Play episode of Polar Night. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right back into it, shall we? Alarm chain, you were up, and let's go! Hold on, let me, where are we? We are right. There we go. Okay, alright. No. Oh, wait. A lot of the cabins are already trashed. I thought the same as you, maybe finding something with his name, but nothing. So, what do you think happened? Huh? To the Iran? Yeah, but also this whole thing. The expedition? You don't think it's convenient that we ran straight into the Iran within days of starting on this expedition? I'm telling you, Sharif knows more than he's letting on. Are you also accusing me of setting fire to the Sylvia? An odd look passed over his face. I couldn't quite catch it, but I could swear his eyes darted to the floor. What do you think happened to the Sylvia? I don't know. I was on a deck when it went up, and the fire started beneath me near the front and to the starboard? I mean, the right-hand side of the ship below decks. That's pretty specific. It's hard to mistake the source of the fire when the explosion was right underneath me. Now that I think about it, wasn't the laundry room about there? Maybe someone left a load of laundry in the tumble dryer. Yeah. He was silent for a moment. Listen, I'm gonna keep searching. Yeah, good luck. I think I'm gonna look somewhere elsewhere. You're giving up? I doubt I'll find his body here, and I'm kinda getting creeped out by rooting for other people's stuff like this. His expression flickered. Without a word, he turned and marched off to continue his search. Once he was gone, I felt the note in my pocket. Could Connor be involved with whatever had happened here? I decided to keep this to myself for now, at least until I knew more. Where do I go? Go to the labs. What is that sitting on the table right there? Oh, God. They found carvings of old gods, didn't they? Fucking idiots. You should have left the moment y'all saw that shit. Laboratories were nestled between a bunch of machinery and storerooms. Inside, Rufus was surveying the room. It was difficult to figure out his expression, but he seemed lost in thought. On the other side of the room, Sharif was peering at a stone object sitting on a counter, a look of intense concentration on his face. The rest of the laboratory seemed reasonably intact except for some paraphernalia scattered on the floor. Rufus? I approached him, drawing his gaze for a moment. He acknowledged me with a nod. Damnedest thing! He muttered, scanning the room. It was then that I noticed the stone object Sharif was studying wasn't the only one. All over the room, boxes stood, some empty, some half filled with packing material, but some had what looked like stone-carved things. Some lay on the counters, a bizarre array of shapes and sizes. Some the size of pebbles, others large enough it would require a couple people to lift. They were clearly not natural, though they seemingly all had a unique shape. They were clearly handmade. Gives me the creeps. He growled under his breath. I had to admit, it was unsettling to me, too. Any idea what these are? Not a one, although Sharif seems to be into them. He jerked his head in his direction. It was odd seeing him like this, even in the current situation. He struck me as someone who didn't scare easily. He was clearly keeping his distance, watching the carvings carefully. You okay? He didn't answer. His eyes were affixed to one of the carvings nearby, a large one covered in faded symbols. Rufus? Oh, I'm fine. He never took his eyes off the sculpture. He didn't add anything more. We stood in silence for a while. I could feel the discomfort radiating off of him, like he wanted to run or smash something, but he was resisting the urge. I won't lie, his clear discomfort was worsening my own. The stone objects were unsettling to look at. I slowly made my way around the lab benches towards Sharif. He was still peering closely at one of the stone objects, carefully brushing at its surface with a finger as he traced some etching on its surface. He seemed so focused that I almost decided against trying to get his attention, but he seemed to snap out of it when he saw me. Oh, Garrett. My apologies, I was, distracted. It's fine. No worries, what is that? I nodded at the rock. Ah, fascinating, isn't it? I don't recognize the symbols or script. It's possible it's an entirely new culture. I gave him an odd look. His excitement almost mirrored Stefan's when he was talking about aliens or whatever. Almost. See here? He beckoned me closer, suddenly giddy in a way I couldn't have imagined him being. The script is like nothing I've seen before, but the symbols all seem to have common motifs. Worshipping, celebrating, placing of gifts. Worshipping who? I don't know, but each sculpture seems to focus on a different figure. In fact, each stone seems subtly different from each other, yet similar within itself. Meaning that each stone was likely carved and decorated by different people. It could be that they were individual offerings. But you said they were all worshipping different things, right? Maybe different interpretations of the same god, or perhaps a pantheon, but I wouldn't give for Hagen's notes. A loud throat clearing snapped him out of his excitement. Rufus was glaring at us from across the room, tapping a finger against his folded arms. Perhaps later. He gave a dainty cough, straightened his jacket, and I noticed tried to conceal a shiver before walking back towards Rufus. Too convenient. Excuse me? We found a map that just so happened to lead us directly to Iran. Now that you're here, you find this weird shit. He gestured at the stone objects around us. And you're like a kid in a candy store. I'm an anthropologist. You cannot hold it against me to be interested in a find like this. And I found the chart of the alternative course that University Hagen was conducting research for. It isn't as if I found it in a cave. And after following it for a couple days, bam, we run right into her. Did you know where to find the Iran all along? Are you accusing me of withholding information that could have saved the lives of the people on this ship? I reckon there's just too many coincidences stacking up. Sharif bristled, unfolding his arms, his fists clenched by his side, and I took an involuntary step backwards, eyes darting back and forth between them. Then stop cowering behind insinuation and state what you believe. I am very much done listening to snide accusations. If you believe I have done something wrong, then you say it. His voice was low, hissing, his eyes burning into Rufus. For his part, the deer simply met his gaze, but didn't unfold his arms. He seemed to consider his words for a moment. And then, without a word, Rufus huffed, turning slowly as he unfolded his arms and sauntered out of the room. Immediately, a wave of relief washed over me. I glanced nervously at Sharif, expecting him to demand an answer or to offer a snide parting shot. But to my surprise, he simply glared. After Rufus was gone, he turned sharply and stormed out of another door leading to the opposite side of the ship. On the one hand, I was relieved they'd not come to blows, but on the other, my heart sank at the realization that what little cooperation we had was looking shakier by the minute. As I turned to leave, something caught my eye. A piece of paper sitting on a nearby table, separate from the other pieces scattered haphazardly about. It was handwritten in a vaguely legible scrawl. Blair, could you tell Hagen to stop coming down the engineering decks without a reason? We keep finding him lurking in the access ways to the inner hull, scaring the shit out of my repair crews. He also hangs around like a weirdo, watching us work on the props and turbine and muttering to himself while giving us the creepiest look he can imagine. I asked the captain, but word is he's locked himself up in his cabin and using Dixon as his personal goon and errand girl. Out of professional courtesy, and because I don't want blood on my hands, I'm giving you a chance to talk sense in him before I involve her. Copper. Hagen, Sharif's friend and mentor, also the leader of the expedition as I understood. Apparently he was a bit of an oddball. I pocketed the note. I wasn't really sure why. Maybe I could show it to Sharif, see what he thought of it. In any case, I wasn't up for spending a moment longer in this creepy place. I turned and left through the same door Rufus had stormed out of. Lost for purpose, I wandered through the frosted hallways, shining my torch on signs, notices, doors. I no longer knew what I was even looking for. Something to take me home from this nightmare, perhaps. Voices up ahead shook me from my melancholy. Low murmurings echoed from somewhere up ahead. As I got closer, I recognized Sharif and Dana's voices. The surroundings began to look familiar, too, as I realized where I was. This place. Instantly, I felt dread, just like in the laboratory around those weird stones. Last time I'd been here, I'd been at death's door. Garrett. She acknowledged me, arms folded as she stood beside Sharif, who was studying the door. His expression, unlike before, was one of concern. This is where we found you unresponsive. You were fortunate, Garrett. Did anyone die on the Sylvia? Isn't everyone fucking accounted for? I think everyone's accounted for. Not everyone on the Sylvia can claim the same. It's locked, although I think the big X and warnings on it could have told us that. Warnings? You know what they say? It says do not open and death inside Norwegian. Yeah, don't fucking open that door, please. Something horrible inside. You understand Norwegian? Naturally, I learned it while studying with Tobias. Who? Professor Tobias Hagen. Apologies, I must not have said his first name to you. Whatever. What does it mean by death inside? Presumably hazardous materials, toxic or perhaps radioactive. Are you saying there's radioactive stuff in here? Immediately I took a step back and Dana flinched and backed away. I said perhaps, but the more likely possibility is that this could be where they stored any deceased crew. Seems like a pretty intense warning for dead bodies. Even in an environment like this, improperly stored cadavers can be hazardous. In any event, without a key, we can only speculate. We stood in silence for a while. Even being near this thing made me want to run. It has been a while since we last gathered. We should return to the mess hall and plan our next steps. Without waiting for a response, he turned, the sounds of hoofsteps echoing into the distance. And by the way, have you seen Stefan? I blinked, a little surprised by her question. Yeah, in the cabins. Why? How did he seem to you? Still obsessed with finding Alex. Why? She paused, glancing away as if considering. Nothing. And with that, she turned and followed after Sharif. I watched after her, frustration bubbling at her evasiveness. But then I realized I was alone in front of this creepy door. I quickly decided to follow her. By the time we arrived at the mess hall, everyone else was there. People had clustered into groups. Joseph stood off by himself, stoic as usual. June hurried over, causing him to crack the smallest of smiles. Aaron was muttering with Tabby. They both glanced up as we entered for a moment before returning to their conversation. Wait, where's Stefan? Who cares? Aaron! What? I'm sick of his prattling. If he wants to freeze to death looking for a dead man... Gale spluttered before launching into a furious tirade. Aaron was completely nonplussed, and Tabby finally had to take Gale by the hand and pull her away, still fuming. Sharif locked eyes with Rufus, and I felt the anger pass between them before Sharif turned on his hoof and addressed the room. If I may have your attention. Slowly, all eyes turned to him. This was not like on the Sylvia, where he'd been a commanding presence. Mutinous looks burned into him. I thought I saw a brief ripple in his otherwise cool expression. Maybe he sensed the potential situation brewing. We should discuss our next steps. Miss Caverin. He turned to June. Did you find much in the way of supplies? She exchanged a brief glance at Joseph, who, seeing her discomfort, spoke instead. Lots of water, crates and bottles, less fuel, but still enough for a while. As he spoke, he lifted a crate filled with liter bottles of water and dumped it on the counter, followed by another containing canisters of kerosene. I felt my hopes raise a little. He picked up a crate on the floor and placed it heavily on the counter. Inside, a dozen battered cans rattled against each other. We found little food, maybe 2 days at most. The silence that followed was surreal. I could swear I could hear the gears turning in everyone's heads, the building crescendo that would follow. 2 days? Aaron, enough! But the hair was livid. He didn't even try to contain the rapid tapping of his boot on the floor with a look of fury that I think Sharif was surprised by. Fuck you! This is all your fault! All of this! Sharif stood his ground, grimacing. This fucking ship has been missing for 2 years, and now we need to hope we just happen to be found in 2 fucking days? If we rationed, we could last a lot longer. And then what? Didn't you say you could fix the radio, Garrett? Now every eye was on me. I looked from face to face, a mix of curiosity and hopefulness on each expression. I said I could try. The radio was pretty smashed up, but if I could get the right tools... I can help. There are plenty of tools. Yeah, I think I'll pass on your help if you don't mind. Joseph snorted, taking a step toward him when June stepped between them, pleading with him to drop it. Then I felt it, the burning in my eye. I closed it and cursed, reaching in my pocket. Alright, y'all, I'm going to pause it right there. Thank y'all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and check out our Patreon if you can. It always helps. Before I go, I'm going to give a quick shout-out to our lovely bronze tier patrons. Thank y'all for what I do for the channel. We greatly appreciate your support. Thank you to our silver tier patron, Cade Silver. Thank you going above and beyond. It's greatly appreciated. And thanks to our 3 gold tier patrons, Zeke, Toby, and Blue Wolf Alpha. Y'all are awesome. We love you. Thank you for subbing to Ultimate Tier. Anyway, if y'all want to get your names in the credits, get access to all of our Not Safe for Work content, including our Not Safe for Work content. Blah. Sorry, y'all. A little out of it. Anyway, I love you all, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye.